But see, now every time I go to reorganize, like a dresser or a closet or anything, that song starts playing in my head.
Does it?
A little bit, yeah.
Because every time that song gets playing in my head, I instantly think of the man who arranges the blocks.
So, next up on the show, we have Delving Deeper, where.
We delve much deeper.
So deep. We're going to delve all the way down into the caverns of game design. And on this one, I wanted to talk a little bit about making games into a learning experience. Now, the reason why I had thought about doing this as a topic was of the most unlikely of places. I was going around looking for all of those licensed games I was talking about, and something came up from halfway across the world from the newspaper The Philippine Star. You bet you didn't know that that's where we were going with this, but
Nope.
there was an article where the University of the Philippines had created a tabletop game called Sakunwari, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong, that
Probably.
that aimed to gamify disaster management. And I immediately was like, what are they talking about? And what it was basically like a card-based game where they would be able to take major issues that we're dealing with today, like climate change, pandemics, etc., and to teach people some of the mechanics that they could use to actually do disaster management. And I thought that was very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, that also led to, because apparently this is the kind of thing that they do, another RPG, an educational RPG, Lipunan, which was also in the Philippines, that tackled the problems with martial law. And I was like, well, probably a good thing to know about.
Fair.
Fair.
Is this kind of like the videos I have to watch at work for active threats?
No. Actually, it looks far more engaging than those, because I've been through those same seminars.
Oh, well, we also have VR headsets, apparently, that you can take those active threat things on.
Oh, really?
So you just get VR
oh, that's
active
perfect.
shooter incidents, and that's apparently traumatizing.
Wasn't that just Rainbow Six? Anyway, anyway, the martial law one I thought was very interesting, because that has a lot to do with like Ferdinand Marcos and that whole thing, which is very relevant because apparently his son is running for president again over there. Who'da thunk? But at any rate, to talk about that one is like casting you in the roles of like student activists or, people that are, in the government or something, and leveling up as you basically try to do speeches and stuff like that to alert people to the problems with going into a martial law state. Now,
Most of them,
yes. Now, those seemed like really kind of heavy, serious topics, but I've also...
far heavier than this show deals with.
Yes, exactly. But it also led me to look at some other things where they'll do resources for like anti-bullying or to recognize bullying for kids. They'll use not video games, but they'll use board games or card games in order to try to show and educate people on, things that they can look for to deal with situations like that. And it got me thinking about other ways that you might be able to use games as like a learning experience or a growth experience. Like actually use a game for something that is going to be productive in the real world.
For learning, yeah.
The gamification of doing things in the real world.
That's a huge thing in a lot of different areas too, just gamifying things to make people enjoy the learning process, and it'll stick with them, because if you gamify it, generally people will remember the moments from the game, and that will touch back on what they're doing.
Yeah. I had thought a while back about the idea of essentially gamifying the very idea of like life in the way of like like when you go out and you do things, you make personal accomplishments. You would like have
Oh, okay.
a
You're
thing of
thinking of the augmented reality type thing.
a little bit more like that, I suppose, where you would actually have like a login that says that, oh, look, you met your goals, whatever the goals were, and you've leveled up and you get.
That's what fitness trackers do.
It's essentially a fitness tracker, but much more broad in its scope, I suppose. And I thought about that, but having had a background in like human resources, I would have much preferred to have like an orientation seminar where I turned it into a game where we were learning the ins and outs of how to do the job. And I would have thought that as a very useful way of utilizing games. But I was trying to figure out like what might be some of the easy, simple mechanics that we could take in a game, and we might be able to utilize them to deal with something in the real world.
I mean, video games do stuff like that all the time too. There are tons of video games that will teach you how to code, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't realize you're learning how to code, it's like, oh yeah, these are like simple coding algorithms.
Right. I believe my niece had one of those open where you can make the little characters dance, and in order to do that, you can take the little programming piece and you can move it over here to say, and if-then statements, essentially. You can do stuff like
basic
that.
programming language. If then, then that. If this, then that.
Yeah, if this, then... if play, then learn, basically. Yeah. The tabletop part, though, I feel like there are certain things when it comes to just basic games like a board game that can be a learning experience, even if you don't necessarily see it up front.
Sure, strategy and planning comes into that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, strategy games are great because you need to be able to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So, critical thinking is a skill. It's not necessarily like a workplace type thing, but, well, I guess it is a workplace type thing. That type of thing you can reinforce, not just learn, but you can reinforce through gaming that requires it. Although it may be limited to the scope of specific instances. Oh, yes.
Sure.
I need to move this troop over there because they're going to flank me.
Right.
Kind of like through me playing Warhammer as much as I did, I got fairly good at eyeballing distances of up to 4 feet. But yeah, there are definitely a bunch of skills you can learn. Math, probability, things like that in tabletop role-playing games.
And also cooperative, endeavors and stuff like that.
Team building.
Yeah, and the actual, even though you have social skills in a lot of those RPGs, the actual socialization aspects of trying to work together and communicate ideas back and forth between people is kind of intrinsically necessary to do the role-playing experience itself.
And then, of course, you have games like Fate, which would also encourage and improve, hopefully improve upon skills for improv and storytelling.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you wanted to lean into any of those, you certainly could. I don't necessarily think that that's going to mean that we're going to do like a floor manager game where you have to figure out like here's the design of your knick-knack store, and you have to play around on that board to figure out if you want to if you need to recover certain areas or like that. I would have loved to do orientation that way, but just not in the cards to teach new customer service reps how to recover the store, get around the board faster, and then you can pick up another cart of goods that need to be put back. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the games can't have an actual purpose to them beyond the actual simple fact of playing it.
Very true, very true.
Very true. And more importantly, I mean, let's face it, who among us did not get better at packing after playing Tetris? I mean, it's... tell me we didn't all get better at figuring out how you put...
play enough Tetris to make me better at packing. I just moved a bunch.
Oh, okay. But see, now every time I go to reorganize, like a dresser or a closet or anything, that song starts playing in my head.
Does it?
A little bit, yeah.
Because every time that song gets playing in my head, I instantly think of the man who arranges the blocks.
I kind of figured you'd mention that meme.
The best song.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So, some of the general mechanics that you could use that can be used as a teaching experience, some of those examples being in what I was talking about before, usually involve actual creative pursuits that have multiple people involved, where you have to communicate ideas back and forth between them. Usually not a lot of chance-based mechanics. You don't see a lot of the, roll to hit parts.
Oh, hopefully you're not hitting someone if you're learning how to, resolve conflict.
I'm learning a disaster management simulation. Okay, roll for combat.
Attack.
Roll for combat. Okay,
critical.
I think we lost the disaster management part of this. Sorry. Yeah, so not a lot of those kinds of mechanics. It definitely seems to focus a lot more on the actual communication of ideas. The Sakunwari, again, I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly, about doing complex disaster resolution actually was created as a multilingual game so that you have many, many different languages represented right there on the cards to make sure that people from any corner of the world could really play this and understand.
And yet they didn't translate the title into other languages for you.
Well, so the thing about it is, I can actually kind of tell you what the word means.
It's fine.
Okay. Never mind then. Imagine basically it's like a assessment of disaster scenarios. We'll say that. But anyway, so I know that there are games out there that will teach some better life skills. It doesn't necessarily have to be in every game that you play, but if you wanted to teach complex ideas, or if you wanted to teach ideas at all, really, games are not a terrible way of doing it or presenting it.
There's definitely a time and place for games to teach different skills and things like that.
Oh, sure.
And they can be really effective in the way they do it. Video games especially can be really good at some of these things too. Because if you're having fun, you don't always realize you're learning.
Exactly. You can use existing games. You don't necessarily have to make one from scratch.
Sure.
D&D is actually a good one because you can present scenarios that do have some interesting connotations for your players, because then they can figure out how to resolve whatever the conflict is. And then, of course, there are board games where if you wanted to use it as a teaching moment, maybe the whole point of your Monopoly game now is not to make everybody else go broke, which was the way it originally was built.
Are you saying you're playing Communopoly?
Socialist Monopoly.
We've turned a capitalist game into a free housing for everyone game.
Well, actually, the story behind Monopoly was that when it was the landlord game before it became Monopoly, was actually to try and show the problems with the landlord model and to encourage people to work together.
Wow, they failed at that.
Yeah, because the woman who originally made it didn't think she really had anything. She ended up selling it to a dude who ended up selling it to the people that made him a whole lot of money. So, kind of ironic if you think about it. um,
Curse you, Milton Bradley. I don't know if it's actually Milton Bradley, but I'm just giving that guy the name.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. No, his name. No, but I think it was Parker Brothers published it, but it was the guy that brought it to them.
Yeah, no, his name is now Milton Bradley forever.
Forever. Your name is Milton Bradley for the rest
We're gonna
of the
make
time.
an NPC in a tavern, a game's hustler, in a D&D or RPG of some sort, and the guy's gonna, oh yes, my name is Milton Bradley.
And now what you have to do is you have to go and kill off my terrible competitors, the notorious Parker Brothers. And
The Parker Brothers. He has a bro.
Yes, he has a bro. And then you can just go see my money manager. His name is Mr. Moneybags. He'll take care of you over there. That's great. Oh god, please let us never make a D&D version that's just Monopoly, where you have to go around and buy taverns all over the place.
Except now we're going to.
Now we're going to.
Do you know how much money PCs have?
A lot. A lot.
They should just start buying towns.
So I guess that's the lesson we're going to take away from this. Your PCs should just start buying towns. I guess...
So, the learning experience we've gathered is that buying up every plot of land in your town, peak move.
Peak move. Maybe what we really learned here is that you shouldn't necessarily use D&D to try and teach economics. Because I think that the economics of how much things cost and how much people get is a little unrealistic. Yeah. But anyway, so if you are out there and you have a subject that you would like to turn into a game, or that you have taught in a game before, I'd be very interested to know. You can always find us over on our Discord, or if you want to catch us on socials, which will be in the links down below. That'd be great. Be very interested to hear from you.